discussing rays, radio and radiation. Joining me are a panel positively glowing with talent from across the comedy spectrum. An alpha male, it's Josh Widdicombe. Hard to beat her, it's Shazia Mirza. Gamma for a laugh, it's Joe Lycett. And give us a microwave, Alan Davis. And let's hear their buzzers. Josh goes.
Warning, radiation level rising.
Oh, Shazia goes.
Alert! Radiation level critical.
Wow. Joe goes.
Meltdown imminent. Evacuate the area.
And of any kind of radioactivity, the most dreaded sound imaginable, Alan. Now, before we start, I happen to know that one of you encountered a lot of radioactive material when you were a child. Do you know who it was?
Warning.
Yes, Josh.
It was me.
It was you. You were
What a start!
positively glowing. Why is that?
Because I was bitten by a radioactive spider. No, I grew up on Dartmoor, and there was radon.
Yes.
So we used to have these radon detectors.
Yep.
That I had one in my room that was like a kind of plastic yellow thing that would kind of sit on a shelf and would tell you if there was radon.
Do you really believe that? It sounds like some toy your children...
I'm now starting to question whether
I know.
my parents just...
mucking about.
Yeah, were taking the piss, yeah.
No, but you're right. Especially the middle of Dartmoor is the worst place in the country for radon.
Is that why he's so small? No, because you know that radiation causes mutations.
Yes, the largest source of radiation that the UK public gets comes in the form of gases radon and thoron, and being in the middle of Dartmoor, that's absolutely the worst place. Now, you two are the Birmingham team. You both grew up in Birmingham. It's actually an island of low radiation. It's very low risk, a bit like Essex.
Should we be proud of that?
Yes. I love Birmingham. I think Birmingham's fab, yeah.
Yeah, I do as well.
I love the Canal. I think the Canal's fantastic. No? Really?
We used to go on canal holidays to
Birmingham?
To Birmingham.
God, he is mutated.
You live in the most beautiful county in England and you go to Birmingham on your holiday.
It was a real refreshing change, actually, to see people. But my dad would say the great thing about Birmingham for canal holidays, it's got more miles of canal than Venice.
That's true, it
Which
has.
implies he'd considered Venice. He thought it wasn't canally enough for our taste.
People have stopped going to Venice. They go to Birmingham now.
Pop round if you're ever there. I had my kitchen extension opened by the Lord Mayor.
That's a euphemism.
It's not. I emailed her and I said, will you open my kitchen extension? To give you an idea of how big it is, this is bigger. And she said no, because she says she doesn't do private events. So I made it a public event and sold tickets to the public. And she came and opened, she cut a ribbon, there's a plaque on the wall. You'd be welcome.
I love that.
I know.
So, Josh, do you know why residents in Devon and Cornwall are exposed to quite as much radiation as they are?
No, I don't.
It's the ground rock. It's largely granite.
Granite.
So the granite contains small amounts of uranium that decays and that produces radon, and you can be exposed to as much as 7 millisieverts of radiation per year. So that's the same as having a CT scan. It's the same as taking 85 transatlantic flights. It is weirdly the same as eating 70 kilos of what, do you think?
Granite.
Brazil nuts.
Oh, I eat so many Brazil nuts.
They contain quite a lot of radon because they have very deep roots which can get right down into the soil that's high in radium.
What's an unsafe amount of Brazil nuts?
I mean, I think anything under 70 kilos, you're probably going to be okay. So now, all new houses in high radon areas, they have to have an airtight membrane which stops the gas from kind of seeping into the buildings.
I always wear one of those.
Yeah, what?
Airtight membrane, yeah.
I wonder you've got as many children as you have. So Austria has one nuclear plant. It was built in 1978. What do you think they did with it?
It looks like a Premier Inn to me.
It's got potential to be a Premier Inn.
You pay a little more if you want to stay in the tower, don't you?
Yeah.
If you get the room with a window, you pay a bit.
They had a referendum once it was finished, and the country voted to not open it. So they didn't.
Really?
Yeah, they never switched it on, and it became a research centre instead.
Imagine if we'd done that with the Shard.
Yeah. Not going to work.
We basically
for us.
did that with the Millennium Dome.
Yeah. How would you sell a house right next to a nuclear power plant?
How do you sell it?
Yeah, how would you sell it?
Right move?
I don't know. I mean, estate agents?
Yes, go to the estate agents.
Well, when you take photographs,
Yeah.
face the other way,
Yeah.
OK.
and then try and distract people.
You are exactly right. Have a look at this. This is 2009. This was a charming three-bedroom Kent cottage that was for sale. The estate agent failed to mention the view if you stood behind the house. Let's just have a look at the view from... There we are.
That is the biggest Premier Inn I've ever seen.
It's 100 yards from Dungeness nuclear power station, one of the largest nuclear power stations in Europe, and they didn't mention it. When they were asked about it, they said, the thing is, anywhere on Dungeness is close to the power station.
And if the nuclear power station are out, you have to collect their deliveries as well.
Yes,
Could you hold on to this glowing box for 12 hours?
but Alan gets an extra point for saying you would face the pictures away from the nuclear power station. Right. Absolutely right. Which Ray changed the world of fashion forever?
Billy Ray Cyrus?
Oh, right, Billy Ray Cyrus.
Terrible dresser. Ray Winston was even worse.
OK. Can I just say how cute that Ray is? Isn't that the sweetest thing?
I'm not sure if it's cute or deadly.
Yeah.
Yes, it's probably...
Might be both.
Yeah, it might be both.
Is this what we're going to evolve into? This is like something from a Doctor Who episode, when this is where we'll be in a billion years.
If you live
obviously-
in that house next to the power station...
Obviously, Josh will mutate first.
Lovely, it's lovely colours.
It is beautiful. Some of the very first beneficiaries of X-ray technology were fashionable women. So, if you have to imagine the mid-19th century, it was very, very fashionable.
Ray. Oh, we'd have been here all night.
X-ray.
Yeah, I'm here to help. So, mid-19th century, women wore heavily boned corsetry, so sometimes more than 100 whale bones. It was incredibly popular, but it obviously restricted movement, breath, and so on.
Not for whales. They were feeling great.
Yeah, they were.
Oh, it was so much freer.
Freedom.
I can't sit up at dinner, but I don't care.
Anyway, there was lots of concern for many years, but people couldn't prove it until X-rays came along. So there was a French doctor called Ludovic O'Fallowell. Anyway, 1908, he took some photographs and he wrote a book called Le Corset, and it showed women's ribs being displaced by Victorian corsets. And partly thanks to him, fashions changed and you get the Edwardian busks with more straight lacing and they end higher up, and that really helped women because it was killing them.
Saved lives.
It did save lives, absolutely. Anybody know who discovered X-ray?
Oh, it was that German man.
It was.
And his middle name's Conrad. Is that right?
Yes, it was a German man, yes,
What an
indeed.
interesting way to remember people's names.
His name was Wilhelm.
See?
Yeah, very complicated.
Not easy to remember.
No, Wilhelm Röntgen.
She doesn't like that at all. That date was going so well. And later on, I shall be introducing this into our play.
Well, you see, it is interesting because his wife needed to be there because the very first X-ray that he took was of her hand.
Is that his wife?
Yes.
What?
Well, I think it's a poor depiction, if I'm frank with
I
you.
see.
1895, he discovered the X-ray almost... It's one of those things that was almost sort of by accident. He took an X-ray of his wife's hand and you can see the dark shadow on it, and that is caused by her wedding ring.
Oh, I thought it was a drone.
It's an Oreo.
It's an Oreo drone in 1895.
Why is it so irritating when your children take apart an Oreo or a bourbon?
Yes.
Why do I find myself saying, don't pick it apart, just eat it as it is? Every time I can't...
I
it annoys
think the
me.
problem might be with you rather than them.
I know. I don't doubt that, but that's just... But why? Of all the many messes that they make, why is that so
They're
annoying?
curious.
No, I don't wish to turn this into therapy, but I'm going to suggest it's not about the biscuit.
They go like that. Just eat it.
All right.
Eat your Oreo,
You know
it's
what?
good for you.
I've never let them have a hobnob because of the potential mess.
Anyway, I need you to imagine that nobody had ever seen an X-ray
An Oreo
before.
or an X-ray.
Nobody had ever seen an X-ray before. This was the very first time that anybody had seen the bones inside the human body. And his wife, Mrs. Röntgen, looked at it and said, "I have seen my death." I mean, it was really shocking to people. He did get the first ever Nobel Prize in Physics 6 years later for it. And there was a kind of mania. It was known as a Röntgen mania. In fact, his name is still used in Denmark for X-rays. There were 50 books published on X-rays in a single year. There were theatre plays with X-ray-themed plays. Newspapers advertised special X-ray-proof underwear for women.
Yeah.
Thomas Edison demonstrated something called a fluoroscope. You could put your body parts in and see your bones on the screen.
Is it very dangerous, though? Because,
Yes, darling, it is really
Incredibly dangerous. When did they find out it was dangerous?
The next year. 23 cases of severe X-ray injury reported in scientific journals. And despite that, they used X-rays to cure things for decades, and doctors would prescribe sort of an X-ray seance for cancer and tuberculosis, acne, ringworm, I mean, all sorts of things. They said it could remove unwanted body hair. It did, but it also left patients ulcerated, bedridden and suffering.
Dead.
Dead, some dead, yes.
Yeah, but so smooth.
Slip straight into the coffin.
There were all sorts of claims. There was a claim by a scientist who said he could make a dog salivate by projecting an image of a bone into its brain. I mean, it was...
That sounds like absolute nonsense.
I know, but you want it to be true, don't you? It's fantastic. X-rays even used to be used to measure shoe sizes. This was a common thing in a shoe shop from the 1930s to the 1970s. It was called a pedoscope.
I don't know why, but I want one.
The advantage was I don't know why it's an advantage. You could have your feet measured with your shoes still on. I mean, it's not that difficult to take them off. Disadvantage, you could only have 12 shoe fittings a year.
Is that all?
Yeah. Why did they stop using them?
Because people died out?
It was the health of the shop workers.
Oh. When I was a kid, there used to be a machine, you'd go in and then it would go...
Oh, yeah.
Did you have that
That
one?
was only in posh shops, like Clark's.
Yeah.
Clark, it was in Clark. That was so exciting.
That was kind of exciting.
Oh, I loved that.
Yeah.
But once again, to repeat, I grew up in the middle of nowhere.
And you had feet that glowed. So. Now, speaking of scans, we're going to see how good you are at radiology.
Ooh.
Can you see anything abnormal in this scan?
Oh.
Oh, like, can anyone else
Oh,
see?
I can see some...
A face?
No, I can see there's like a figure in the top right.
Oh, yeah, there's a monkey.
There's a gorilla.
Oh, yes.
I'd just like to withdraw my comment that I could see a face.
These were researchers at Harvard Medical School, and they deliberately inserted an image of a gorilla into people's scans to see if trained radiologists would notice it, and 83% missed.
What?
Yeah. People have been on QI before. Well, Alan, why might they use a gorilla for this particular thing? It's an homage.
There's that, yeah. Oh,
Yes, Josh?
So there's a thing where are they bouncing basketballs to each other or something, and then a gorilla walks past and waves and walks on it and no one sees it because they're counting the basketball.
Yeah, it's a famous invisible gorilla study, and it was done by two psychologists, Chris Chabris and Daniel Simmons of the University of Illinois. So people are asked to watch a basketball, and while they're counting how many times the ball is being moved, a gorilla runs through the middle, and most people missed the gorilla. They just didn't see it. It is a phenomenon known as inattentional bias. We miss big, obvious things because we're looking really hard for something specific. So a radiologist who would know how to read that is clearly looking for some kind of illness. They're not looking for an ape, not expecting one, and so they don't see it.
With my toddler, she'll watch Sarah and Duck or something.
Sarah and Duck's great. I love
It's
Sarah
so
and Duck.
good.
It's about Sarah and her duck.
Her friend Duck. And I'd say it's the best TV show of any genre on at the moment. I mean that. It's so good. Anyway, she'll be watching Sarah and Duck.
Yeah.
And I'll say something, and she'll... I think she's ignoring me.
No.
Is that just attention?
She's doing that, though, isn't she? Theme tune. Does the theme tune not go...
Sarah and Duck. Do, Sarah and Duck.
I'm going to suggest the two of you are not getting enough sleep.
There's no doubt about that.
But she's not being rude. She's just focused.
Yeah, it's hard to say with kids. Could be a bit of both.
See, I don't have kids, but I miss things because I'm out having fun and getting totally shit-faced.
How do you think we got kids?
Why might a pigeon have spotted the gorilla?
Because pigeons love gorillas. Is that Sue Perkins?
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't be looking for the scan. It would just...
Well, here's an extraordinary thing. So there was an experiment by the University of Iowa, and they trained pigeons to spot diseases in scans, and it turns out they have pretty much the same skill at doing it as humans. So what they did was they put 16 birds in boxes, and they were trained to peck. So blue rectangle they were told to peck if they saw healthy tissue, and a yellow one for malignant tissue, and they got a reward if they got it right. And when they were trained, they were correctly able to distinguish between normal and cancerous slides pretty much to the same extent as human beings.
Is the NHS really struggling that much for money?
Yeah.
Imagine waiting for your results, though, and then a pigeon walks in.
Yeah. We're not 100% sure, so we brought in Polly. We brought in Sarah and Duck.
Do you know what's amazing? The pigeons got it right 84% of the time on images which they had been trained on, and 72% of the time on images which they had never seen before. It's roughly the same as human observers. And they did this despite the fact that a pigeon has a brain no larger, frankly, than a hazelnut. And then if you took the responses of 4 birds and you combined them, it's something called flock sourcing, they have a 99% accuracy. Wow. If you have a pigeon doctor, you might want to ask them to look at an X-ray. Stay with me, people. What's the defining characteristic of Nazi toothpaste?
Whitening, frightening, depending where you put it, very tightening. I mean, Scott, you must have got your hemorrhoid cream mixed up with your Savalon.
No. No, I've never had hemorrhoid cream.
No,
That must be awful. In America, they have hemorrhoid aisles in the chemists. I was in a chemist in New York, and there was a whole aisle dedicated entirely to hemorrhoid cream.
Really?
I know.
You've been in the pile aisle?
I've not discussed this on TV.
No, do it for us.
So I had suspected hemorrhoids.
Congratulations.
So I phoned up the doctor.
And he went, what?
And I was like, can I get an appointment? I think I've got hemorrhoids. They were like, oh, we've got to do over-the-phone consultation. The doctor will phone you back. And she phoned me back and she was like, could you describe your symptoms? And I've never really had, like, an embarrassing illness down there before. So I described my symptoms downstairs. And I was quite embarrassed by it, because as you can see, I'm not stumbling here.
No.
Don't worry, no one will know.
And then I got to the end and she went, are you the comedian,
No.
Josh Widdicombe?
Oh, I had somebody ask me that while I was having a colonoscopy.
What, they asked you if you were Josh Widdicombe?
Yes. Wanted to know if I was Josh Widdicombe, and it turned out there'd been a misunderstanding with a phone call.
I'd like the idea they're in your colon. They go, that looks like Josh Widdicombe.
I'd recognise that anyway.
Can I just say to everybody as a health warning, if you do not need a colonoscopy if all you've had is beetroot. I'm just going to put it out there.
So I had basically the same, sort of the same thing. I had
Is this like a hemorrhoid helpline?
Yeah. At Christmas, have your fibre, that's all I can say. I went to the GP and I had a hemorrhoid, and I sat down next to this quite elderly lady and she went, you're that comedian, aren't you? And she said, I keep thinking I see famous people around here. I thought I saw the Pope in B&Q. And then we were chatting a bit, and she sort of said, what are you in for? And I tried to sort of find a euphemism, so I said, and it was around Christmas, I said, I'm growing a little cranberry, is what I said. And she was like, oh, and she went, how festive.
Right. The question was, what's the defining characteristic of Nazi toothpaste?
How did we get onto ourselves? it's your fault. It's
No,
your fault.
and I'm the only one who hasn't had them.
I haven't had them.
She just had beetroot.
I just had beetroot. So what happened in 1944? There was a German chemist in occupied Paris. He'd been tracking down stocks of uranium and thorium and sending it back to Germany. And there was enormous fear that the Nazis were about to develop their own nuclear weapons. And so a team of spies, who were collectively known as Alsos, were tasked with discovering what the Nazis' nuclear plans were. And they worked out eventually that all of this radioactive material was being stockpiled by a company in Germany hoping to gain a post-war monopoly on radioactive toothpaste. That was the plan. There was a very popular product called Doramad radioactive toothpaste. It was advertised as making your teeth shine with radioactive brilliance, which it absolutely would do, but they wouldn't stay in your mouth for very long. So there was a huge boost in things that were thought to be radioactive. After radium was isolated by famous woman chemist...
Oh, Marie Curie.
Marie Curie, extra point.
Is that Marie Curie on the right?
That is... Yes, she's the one without the beard. That's her husband Pierre in the middle there, and a professor colleague of theirs called Petit. It was Marie Curie who coined the term radioactive, and there was a huge boom in products which contained radium. There was something called the Radioator. It was a water jug lined with uranium ore, and it steadily gave off radon gas as the uranium decayed. It claimed to bring back that lost element of original freshness, radioactivity. There were lots of things for sexually weak men.
Keep talking.
A few ears are pricked up.
Something called magic radium massage. It was to be rubbed into the sex part for firmness and strength and a pink, healthful appearance.
I'm sorry, where did we get this? Sorry.
Well, the thing about it is, it would seem to work. So if your body is exposed to radiation, it begins to fight it, and it gives you a sort of short-term high as the blood flows around your body. So for a brief moment, it probably would seem rather marvellous. The long-term effects, obviously, devastating. Let's have a look at one of these sort of strange jock straps that a gentleman could have a look at. So, new energy for weak, sagging men.
Weak, sagging men?
Marie Curie. I think she's amazing. She was Polish. She worked in Paris because her native university in Krakow would not allow her to study because she was a woman. And in 1903, she and her husband, Pierre, right in the middle there, were invited to the Royal Institution in London to give a lecture on radioactivity, and she was not allowed to give it, even though she is the one who made the discovery. And her papers from the 1890s are still considered too dangerous to handle. They're all in a lead box, and you have to wear special protective clothing if you're going to look at them. And even her home recipe book is in a lead box. It must be annoying if you just want a recipe for soup. It must be... Now, to a new kind of radioactivity. What did the man who invented radio really want to hear?
Well, since it's a man, probably his own voice.
Do you know...
I like men.
Me too, darling.
Anybody know who that is?
Marconi.
It is Guglielmo Marconi, the inventor of radio. Well, certainly one of the great pioneers of radio. He formulated a theory that sound never died, it just got weaker and weaker. And towards the end of his life, one of the things he wanted to discover was the right apparatus to be able to detect all sounds ever made. He hoped one day to invent some kind of apparatus sensitive enough to hear Jesus delivering his Sermon on the Mount. That's Jesus there, in case there's any doubt.
It was this big.
Yeah. So, would he be right? Is it possible to detect sound from the past? Is it?
No.
No, why not?
Because sound travels forward.
To where? Where's it gone?
To the future.
OK. What did you do before you were a comedian?
I was a science teacher. My students have done really well. They've all graduated from Feltham Institute for Young Offenders.
So here's the thing about sound waves. They're gradually absorbed by air molecules, until they're no longer audible. They're just absorbed. But he is astonishing, Marconi. He got his first wireless patent when he was just 22. He had no formal education in science. I love this. He was aided by a series of tutors and manservants. I know. I suspect his valet came up with it. That's fine. In fact, his very first transatlantic message depended on a device called a coherer. It seems to have been based on an unpatented design by an Indian physicist called Jagadish Chandra Bose, who had been demonstrating wireless telegraphy 2 years before Marconi managed it. He's from Bengal, and he wasn't allowed to work in a lab on the grounds of his race, so he had to build a makeshift lab at home.
So did Marconi steal his idea by listening into the past when he first said it?
What I love is the detail that you've grasped in this entire... They were both at the Sermon on the Mount. The very first transatlantic transmission, so it was from Cornwall to... Can you remember if it was Newfoundland? We did this. Newfoundland or Newfoundland?
Newfoundland.
It is Newfoundland, isn't it? Newfoundland. The very first transatlantic transmission, Cornwall to Newfoundland, people thought it was impossible.
It's Cornwall.
Cornwall to Newfoundland.
You hate Cornwall, don't you?
Why did
I absolutely hate Cornwall. I can't believe it's come up. I can't believe they were involved in the future of radio.
And one of the nice things about touring is you find out which bits of the country hate one another. And Devon and Cornwall, holy shit.
Oh, they You know what the main dispute is?
Is it cream on the scone?
Yeah, it's whether you go cream on top and jam below, or the other way round. But I'm from Devon, and I actually think the Cornish way is better.
Oh, my God! I'm going to go home again.
Controversial. Let's do a quick vote. Who thinks the cream should go on first on a scone? Hands up.
Idiots.
No.
And who thinks the jam should go on first?
Yeah.
Oh, overwhelming. So that's the Cornish way.
My kids just take the whole thing apart.
Anyway, we were discussing the first transatlantic transmission of radio. Why do people think it was impossible to go...
Curvature of the Earth?
Curvature of the Earth, absolutely, because radio waves travel in a straight line and the Earth is curved.
Is it? I thought it was flat.
Wow, what a science teacher you must have been. What they didn't know, of course, was that there's a reflecting layer in the atmosphere, the ionosphere, which the radio waves bounce. They bounce off.
Amazing. Also, if you said something loud enough, wouldn't the Earth turn and then people would all hear it eventually?
Yes, that's right, because sound travels forward.
It's a good question. I remember being in a revolving restaurant with my
You just
cousin.
said it's a good question to your own question.
Yeah. I'll tell you why. I was in a revolving restaurant in Sydney with my cousin, and she put her handbag down, and it didn't turn up again for 40 minutes.
You're right, sound is just like that. So, darling, the atmosphere turns with the Earth.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, it's not like the Earth's going and the atmosphere said, I'll stop here till you come back.
Sorry, carry on.
Anyway,
As you want,
the
as
thing
you
that
want.
will please you, darling,
Yes.
is that Marconi didn't know why it was working, so you are not alone in your ignorance. He won the Nobel Prize in 1909, and in his acceptance speech, he freely admitted that with many of his inventions, he had no idea exactly how it was working, and I love that. So there's lots of good things about him. Less good, he fell in with Italy's fascists. When he died, the largest wreath was from Hitler, so there are bits about him that I think are less good. But over 500,000 people lined the streets for his funeral processions, and to commemorate his death, radio stations in Italy and indeed in the UK and the United States and Canada all went silent for a minute.
Is that a way to discredit someone after they've died? Is to get someone really objectionable to send a massive wreath?
Oh, that's...
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. The atmosphere was moving. What?
Come back in a year and it'll still be here.
Right, moving on. Where does this man keep his radio transmitter?
Where's his penis?
Well, that...
Who leaves the house without their penis?
Weirdly, that is part of the answer.
All of us that have penises keep our radio transmitters in them.
You could.
Really?
What?
Could.
Where?
Yes. OK.
I picked up Classic FM earlier.
Who are you shagging?
So during the Cold War, the CIA developed a radio, obviously just for the boys. It was a secret radio hidden in a fake scrotum. I know, it's a general...
Oh, my God.
All right, that's an overreaction to the scrotum.
Do you know what's offensive about that? I had to pose for 8 hours for that.
Airbrushed you out.
They said it'd be tastefully done.
Well, so you're the only comedian with a detachable scrotum. That's why you got...
It was for pilots who might be captured and searched, for example. Obviously, our action man could not... I don't know, couldn't pull this off, I was going to say, but I don't know what the expression is. Anyway, I am told spies could slip it over an existing...
Oh, so it'd be go over
Scrotum.
the normal scrotum?
Yes, and then
Not
guards
really,
would
don't
probably...
think you could slip anything over your scrotum.
Well, apparently you had to put it on one testicle at a time. I'm just telling you...
What, and then staple it?
I think it would just...
Suction?
So it's rubberised like a swimming hat.
I think it... Yeah, I think you pop...
If it's suction, it's not the getting it on I'm worried about, it's the getting it off.
Yeah.
Is that a one-size-fits-all?
I've run out of information. And what I can tell you is that, tragically, although built and tested, it was never, ever used in the field.
Well, did it overheat? That's what I'm worried about. I mean, it looks like a kitchen timer, like it would eventually go...
It'd be awful if you hadn't turned it off and you suddenly heard the Archer's theme tune coming. You can see this particular scrotum, should you wish, in Washington, D.C.'s International Spy Museum. There is also, and I don't know what I think about this, there is a toolkit with 10 different drill bits and saws and knives and so on, and those all fit in that canister, which can go up a spy's bottom. What I don't understand is how meticulous a spy would you be, because the second one from the right looks like a letter opener. I mean...
Well, I think at least 3 of them look like they do the same job.
Don't you think? Yeah. Now, how many radiators are there in this picture? So bear in mind, it's QI.
Say 2, Josh, say 2.
2.
2 is right, you get an extra point.
Yeah! All on my own. All on my own.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
No!
We tried to save you, Joe.
God, you could see that one coming, Joe.
Surely.
No. This is all bollocks. There's 8... 8 radiators there.
OK, they are misnamed radiators because most of the heat comes from convection. So convection is when you warm up the air, which then rises, it pulls the cold air down, which then heats up before the cycle starts all over again. And that is what happens in a radiator. Only a fifth...
You called it a radiator? 8 radiators.
I'm saying they're misnamed.
OK, so...
Only a fifth of the heat actually comes from radiating, which is the transfer of heat from electromagnetic waves.
So they should be called a convector.
They should really be
So,
called convector.
when I got some radiators put in on my house...
Yes, they were missold to you.
I could have, at the end, gone to the builder. Little quibble over the bill here.
Yes.
Yeah. It should have been a toucan.
So humans would be described as radiators because 60% of our body heat leaves us through radiation. So the heat is transferred to blood vessels at the body's surface.
Has she got hot boobs or cold boobs?
I'd say those tits are hot, I would say.
Is she a mermaid?
She's covering her modesty as if...
He's not.
No, he's very happy with himself, isn't he?
Anyway, so we radiate heat all the time, so we are a form of radiator. Toucans radiate even more, and they are astonishing. So they use those big bills, which you would think was just to attract mates or to identify toucans of the same species.
Tell you what, Sandy, my radiators have led to quite big bills.
Very good
Wordplay, double meaning of bills, you see. That really should have got a... Have you ever had 2 cans of beer? So fickle.
Toucans use their bills as radiators to warm themselves up and cool themselves down. In hot weather, the bird sends blood to its beak to cool down, and then in cold weather, the toucan constricts the blood vessels to avoid losing heat. It can change temperature by 10 degrees centigrade in just a few minutes.
Wow.
Now it's time for the X-rated round that we call General Ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, please. What's the busiest man-made waterway in the world?
Evacuate.
Yes, Joe.
Birmingham Canal. I'm so livid.
I'm guessing it's not going to be one of the really famous ones.
Which one
like
do you think of it?
Suez
Suez.
or Panama.
Panama.
Not those.
No.
No?
See
what I did there? See what I did there? Save
Yeah,
yourself.
very good.
Eh?
Not
It's only
those.
taken you 16 series
Look
to
at
learn,
learn.
hasn't it?
Is it in the UK? Give us a clue, give us a clue.
It's German.
German?
German. Das Canal.
The Kiel Canal. So it cuts across the North German...
I was going to say that, the keel.
It cuts across the North German state of Schleswig-Holstein, part of which, can I just say, actually should belong to Denmark. Just going to put it out there. Anyway, so in 2018, more than 42,500 ships passed through the Kiel Canal, as well as about, 20,000 yachts and private motorboats and so on. It was originally conceived as a way, inexplicably, for German ships to avoid Denmark. I mean...
Oh.
The Kiel Canal is the best way of avoiding Denmark. Not that you would want to. Imagine you're on the Panama Canal, OK, and you're heading east. Which body of water will you end up in?
Is it the Caribbean?
So you're heading east. Just think it through. So where the Atlantic Ocean is...
East towards Essex.
...is on the east side of the United States. The Pacific Ocean is...
It's on the west.
Pacific is on the west.
Yeah. So the Atlantic is on the east, the Pacific is on the west. You're going to go through the Panama Canal.
Panama Canal goes quite northy-southy, doesn't it?
Yes.
Trying to think.
OK.
But when you come out of that end, you'll be in the Caribbean.
If you're heading east,
Don't
then
you
you
dare
are
do it
going to
twice.
end up in the
Yeah.
Atlantic Ocean.
OK, so...
You said Atlantic.
Oh!
You get away with that.
That was like you were telling on me.
Yeah,
for
I was telling on you because you said it and it didn't go off, and that sort of thing really gets my goat.
It's not my fault.
OK, so let's just go through this. OK, so the Atlantic is on the east and the Pacific is on the west, and the Panama Canal
The
down
canal
there.
runs north-south, see?
Yep. But because of the way the Panama Canal curves, if you head from the Atlantic to the Pacific, you will actually end up further east than you started.
Oh.
So you go southeast to get to the Pacific, and you go northwest to get to the Atlantic.
Can't believe I've been done with a trick question on QI.
Oh, I can't believe
I love canals. I think they're just extraordinary.
Hey, Sandy, why do you like a canal so much?
I like the peacefulness of it, I like the slowness of it. Like you can get off for a walk and somebody else is steering the boat and you can still get back on again.
You could storm off in a huff,
I know.
still return to the holiday.
I interviewed a guy once who wanted to do the whole canal system of Britain, and he had been away sailing for 3 weeks, and there was an emergency at home, and he got a taxi and he was home in an hour. The smallest toll ever paid on the Panama Canal was 36 cents. It was paid by the adventurer Richard Halliburton to swim along it.
Where did he keep the money?
In his little scrotum that he put over.
Now, if you are pregnant, what is the best way of inducing labour?
Oh, I know.
Vote.
Have a curry.
We're a
I
bottleneck.
heard that works.
What, the curry thing?
Curry doesn't work.
Yeah.
Beckoning with an Oreo at the opening.
Wow. Weirdly, all the studies we looked at, that wasn't one that came up.
No?
Right? No. Right.
Come on, come on.
There's lots of myths about how to get labour started in pregnant women. The most common ways are walking, sex, ingesting spicy food, and nipple stimulation. So, sex does not work. This is not a general statement. It's... they did a study, about 1,500 women. It doesn't work, makes no difference. There are no studies which deduce that spicy food or even walking definitely would work.
I love the fact that studies, like they've been giving pregnant women curries, hotter and hotter curries. Yeah. Nothing.
Take it up to a file.
Is it coming? No.
Women who say it does work, it may be something we call confirmation bias. So you know it's supposed to help to have curry, and therefore you say that was a factor, but it's very unlikely to be true. Castor oil, raspberry leaf tea, there's all sorts of things.
There was that woman that went into labour after watching Michael McIntyre.
Was it Mrs. McIntyre?
Was she watching him do stand-up or just watching him from his garden?
Just watching him.
The one thing that does seem to work, nipple stimulation. Now, this...
Oh, it's coming!
So here's the weird thing. This is from the study, OK? Women whose nipples have been stimulated, so rolled between the fingers, for 1 to 3 hours a day.
This scientist needs locking up.
Oh!
Who can be bothered to do that?
And it has to be one nipple at a time, or 33% more likely to go into labour within 72 hours or kill you, I think.
You look like you're tuning my penis radio, Alan.
Oh, I've got Chris Moyles.
According to the largest study on the subject, this stimulation also reduces the risk of heavy bleeding after delivery by 84%. So this is the thing.
Top tip.
Really?
Top tip, nipple stimulation. Can I just say, always ask your doctor before spending 3 hours rubbing your nipples.
I always do, and he hates answering the calls.
Is that the comedian Josh Widdicombe?
I'm going to say that every time I ring the surgery now. Hello, it's Josh Widdicombe here. So the entire audience, OK? Let's all pretend we're ringing the doctors. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hello, it's Josh Widdicombe here.
God. My medical history is going to be a mess. Says he has a problem with his vagina.
That's nothing. His scrotum fell off last time he was here. Right, it's time for the scores. Glowing with health in first place. Oh, my goodness, with -1. It's Josh! In second place with -6 is Shazia! And in third place with -17, Joe! And having an absolute meltdown in last place with -25, it's Alan. And it's thanks to Shazia and Joe, Josh and Alan. That's it from us. I'll leave you with the rallying cry of the protesters from the campaign to save Radio 4 Longwave in 1993. As they marched, they shouted, "What do we want? Longwave. When do we want it? Now. And what do we say? Please, thank you, and good night."